I'm going to make a quick video about this book here again, St. Nicodemus of the Holy Mountain, a handbook of spiritual counsel. Hard enough to get a hold of today. This is from a PDF version, guarding all the senses in general. So this is preceded by a chapter on each of the senses, and also a chapter guarding the eyes, guarding the sense of touch, guarding the sense of smell, guarding the sense of hearing. He goes through them all, guarding the imagination, also guarding the mind. And now he's going to return kind of in a summary form, guarding all the senses in general. This is a beautiful chapter because in it he's going to show it's us guys living in a world actually that have the harder struggle in terms of with the senses, and that makes common sense. But it's not often you get it spelt out like that. Often it's just not spelt out. The radical struggle which living in the world is going to entail, if you're going to get, some mastery at the sense gates, I think, and how much more in the 21st century. And then he's going to explore this idea of Aristotle that nothing is in the mind that has not previously entered the senses. The idea of the rasa tabula of Aristotle. Well, he's going to say yes if that's about, knowledge and information, but not if it's about the virtues, because we're made in God's image and God made everything good, and indeed us very good. Genesis 2:31. But he does concede that this is quite correct if we're on about the foul play at the sense gates. Sin enters through the senses, as it did with Adam and Eve. In what way can one guard the senses from the passions? He's been talking about the senses like windows into the soul, and he says that we have to guard these windows, just like in the temple they put up fine curtains to prevent the entry of impure insects, it says here, Ezekiel 41:6. Well, so we've got to put drape curtains at our sense gates. Now, what would those curtains be? Well, of course, the Jesus prayer, regular prayer, regular retreats, which keep the heart nice and warm. I remember coming out of a month of Ignatian spiritual exercises as a Roman Catholic monk, and I was in my 20s, early, mid 20s at the time, came out into August sunshine in Madrid as we were passing on to the monastery, and, women semi-naked everywhere. And I remember, even though we practiced like guarding our eyes and all the rest of it, it just bounced off me. It made no impact because of the heat of the oven, the heat of the heart through the prayer. Well, he actually, to return to St. Nicodemus rather than to my foolish experiences, he says, so what are these nets to put over the senses? And he says, the memory of death for one, our account before Christ on the day of judgment, the memory of eternal suffering. And through these man can put away the evil passions and sins when they come before his eyes and his other senses. Though St. Nilos says those who desire to keep their mind as clean and a pure temple, where the doors and windows are covered with fine nets to prevent the entry of any impure insects, must similarly cover their senses by meditating on the sober realities of the future judgment, which prevent the entry of any impure images to creep in. Now, I'm just going to add there, for example, the charnel ground meditations of the Buddhist monks. They go to the burial grounds where, I think you still have people getting cremated open air, and they'll stay overnight there and smell the ashes and see the rotting flesh and the blood and the guts and the reality of death, open air, as it were, and here meditate that this is the nature of all flesh. Show me beauty, show me this worldly beauty that besotts and enslaves our senses and drags so many into unhappy bondage. Show me the beauty. And there, I also see in this text, St. Nicodemus talking about the same thing, really reflect on what is this beauty that we're so besotted by, particularly as men, but also women, I'm sure. What is it? How deep is it? Not very deep at all. Surface level. Medical students will soon tell you enter into the cadaver, cut it open, and, blob of jelly. There's no difference between the fit person and the unfit, the obese and the skinny, as it were. So we're deluded. You take a piece of hair. Oh, that's person's lovely hair, such beautiful hair. Put it in your breakfast. The same hair, it's no longer beautiful. And so on and so forth. So that can be useful. Here he's going to say that the devil dies when he does not receive the pleasure of the senses. So this ant lion, which the fathers talk about, the ant of the passions, oh, it's just a wee look. Oh, it's just a wee bit of gossip. Oh, it's just a comedy. Chill out. It's just this, it's just that. And then before we know it, we've got a fire in our hands. It's just a match. So they'll no longer be able to feed on you. The ant does not become a lion. How many, people with great lives, great CVs, great careers in the media, etc., have destroyed these lives through the passions which I'm sure in the outset they didn't intend to get out of control, and yet little by little, drop by drop, the ant became a lion. We must be courageous to stamp, to do war on the passions at the sense gates. Only the courageous can take up this battle, and this is basically what he's going on to say here. He uses some biblical analogies of Sodom and the 5 kings that were under the control of the king of Sodom, rescued by Abraham, and he alludes to this as coming of age. And the child, at about the age of 12, develops an intellectual power to be able to have more control of their senses, which they've previously just simply indulged willy-nilly. But again, in the age that we are in, the sense gates have been highly, highly stimulated, shall we say, if we're living out here in the world. Well, if we do gain victory, and we must gain victory, there is no other way, then the angels will come and crown us, and we will give great glory to Christ. But on the other hand, with the falls, we bring shame, bearing the name of Christian and acting such. He alludes to the idea, the Spartans who threw out one of their poets, Archaeologos, who basically had wrote a verse, "It is better to be deprived of weapon than life." For the Spartans said, "We're not having that, mate. Clear off. We must die fighting this battle at the sense gates." Here we have quotes from King Alexander the Great. This vast empire, all my victories will prove to be vain if I do not succeed in conquering myself. So an amazing, brief, succinct